Welcome, greetings, peace. We are the Ministry of the Real Truth. And I came across an article at Salon which states you don't have a soul. You don't have a soul. The real science that debunks superstitious charlatans. Okay. Trust science, not myth. Religious hucksters with claims of immortal souls are lying. Let's embrace reality. Okay, that's his perspective. Possibly a atheist or agnostic. Why he makes this statement, don't really know. I try to dig online, find out all about him. Okay, find some dirt, but yeah, I'll have to dig more because it's not available. I can't find anything, as in Wikipedia or anything like that, about his life story. Right, to see if there is any dirt. Mentioning that he's an atheist or agnostic, whatever. It's important to know, because these people are making statements against your belief system. If you have a belief system, right, they're trying to crap on it, trot all over it. Okay. So yeah, he basically said trust science, not myth. In other words, don't trust the Bible or any religious text. And he calls people religious hucksters who claim, with their claims of immortal souls, are lying. Okay, so he's basically calling us a liar. He's calling God a liar, calling the Bible a liar. Okay. So let's embrace reality. Okay. Yeah, embracing reality is very important. Okay, then you have some information on down the bottom of this article. Okay, we'll get to at the end of this. Right, there's a picture of the deceptive movie Ghost. Okay, good movie, but yeah, obviously very deceptive. Not biblical, if you want to put it that way. Okay, so this is excerpted from the soul fallacy, what science shows we gain from letting go of our soul beliefs. Yeah, what do you gain from doing that? Every atom in your body came from a star that exploded, and the atoms in your left hand probably came from a different star than your right hand. It really is the most poetic thing I know about physics. You are all stardust. Okay, Lawrence Krauss, a university from nothing, 2012. Okay, I don't know if this guy's a Christian. I don't think he is. I think he's a religious antagonist. I've seen debates on this guy. Never really delved into whatever he says on debates or whatever. Yeah, so I don't want to make a judgment on the guy. I don't know him. I've never studied him. So okay, one July night in a small English village sometime near the end of the 20th century, Harry stood by his friend Roderick as the radio engineer calmly explained his plan to strike at the creator of the universe. Here comes some blasphemies, I suppose. Roderick had decided that he wanted to kill God, and he thought he knew how. This desire was motivated in part by his conviction that the universe should exist on its own, but mostly it was fueled by Roderick's deep contempt for the unfairness of existence, for which he held God responsible. He explained to Harry that even though God was not material, he must possess at least some material characteristics, for otherwise he would not have been able to create the physical universe. When prompted to explain how he might be able to reach God, Roderick remarked that the information had been available to us for a long time. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Genesis 1:3. The machine that Roderick built to carry out his plan was an elaborated framework, lasers, mirrors, and prisms, all precisely arranged and calibrated, sitting on the workbench in his home laboratory. He reasoned that it should be possible to generate a self-sustaining pattern of light that would reinforce itself indefinitely, transcending space and time to reach the Creator, striking God with a deadly bolt of energy. The fantasies these guys have. The two men adjusted their goggles and Roderick flipped on the switch. Through the dark lenses they could make out the pattern of light in front of them as the beams followed their geometric paths. Gradually the light intensified and the brightness started to expand, swallowing the mirrors, the workbench, and the entire room. An instant later, the light was gone. "That's it," announced Roderick dryly. "God is dead." Harry looked around and everything seemed perfectly normal. "Nonsense," he snarled. Roderick then removed his goggles to inspect the room, and it was at that moment that the truth was revealed to Harry. He saw his friend's empty eyes. Roderick had indeed killed God. Oh my gosh, more blasphemies. and in the proceed he had destroyed every living creature's soul. Life went on, and the vast clockwork of the universe continued to tick around according to mechanical laws, but all he had to do now was look at the people's eyes to realize that they were all dead inside. There was no beauty, no meaning, no inner life. This is what God supplied when he was alive, after all, reflected Harry, and now it's all gone. So this is a summary of the short story called God the Gun by science fiction. Okay. Author Barrington Bailey, which was written in the early 1970s. Today, in spite of considerable advance in technology, most people would find Roderick's quest futile and hopelessly simple-minded, to say nothing of its evil nature. But Bailey's story remains powerful because most of us share his intuition that human beings are more than mere collections of physical parts. There must be something else in addition to the atoms and cells that make up our bodies. In essence, a spirit, something precious and beautiful. In short, a soul. This intuition is deeply rooted in the human psyche and has been shared by people across cultures from antiquity to the present day. As Mark Baxter and Stuart Goetz observe in their book, The Soul Hypothesis, most people at most times, in most places, at most ages, have believed that human beings have some kind of soul. This intuition also plays a central role in most religious doctrines. Pope John Paul II famously articulated the idea in a message delivered to the Pontifical Academy of Sciences in October 1996, in which the Holy Father declared that the human body might originate from pre-existing living matter, but the spiritual soul is the direct creation of God. Explaining the mind as a product of evolution, claimed the Pope, was incompatible with the truth about man. Belief in the soul is also very much alive in North American culture today, as the results of numerous polls demonstrate. In my own interviews of college students enrolled in upper-level undergraduate psychology classes, like the ones I regularly teach at Rutgers University, I have found that a majority of students also believe that they have a soul. What's more, these intuitions are constantly reinforced by a wealth of books, TV shows, movies, and pronouncements made by writers and gurus of all stripes who purport to have found convincing evidence for the existence of the soul. Belief in the immortality of the soul was even featured as the cover story of the October 15, 2012 issue of the magazine Newsweek, with the title Heaven is Real, A Doctor's Experience of the Afterlife. In sharp contrast to popular opinion, the current scientific consensus rejects any notion of soul or spirit as separate from the activity of the brain. This is what Francis Crick, codiscoverer of the structure of DNA, called the Astonishing Hypothesis. In Crick's words, you, your joys and your sorrows, your memories and your ambitions, your sense of personal identity and free will are in fact no more than the behaviour of a vast assembly of nerve cells and the associated molecules. Reflecting on what he calls the scientific images of persons, the philosopher Owen Flanagan stressed that we need to demythologize persons by rooting out certain unfounded ideas from the perennial philosophy. Letting go of the belief in souls is a minimal requirement. In fact, desouling is the primary operation of the scientific image. The weight of the scientific consensus is distributed over many disciplines and includes, as we would expect, the sciences of the mind, psychology, neuroscience, cognitive science. Harvard psychologist Joshua Green summarizes the situation as follows. See, most of these things, they come from these universities, right? And they've got their own personal prejudices, biases, okay, etc., etc. Right? And they want you to embrace that as the truth, when it isn't necessarily the truth. Okay. So Harvard psychologist Joshua Green summarizes the situation as follows. Most people are dualists. Intuitively, we think of ourselves not as physical devices, but as immaterial minds or souls housed in physical bodies. Most experimental psychologists and neuroscientists disagree, and at least officially. The modern science of mind proceeds on the assumption that the mind is simply what the brain does. We don't talk much about this. However, we scientists take the mind's physical basis for granted. among the general public, it's a touchy subject. Thus, according to Green, science, like Roderick's God gun, has killed the soul, but scientists are reluctant to announce the news. The soul may indeed be a grand delusion, but it is a useful and comforting one. Open Pandora's box, and we may be the ones, like Harry, looking into other people's eyes and discovering that everything has lost its beauty and meaning. The award-winning Jared Diamond once remarked that science is responsible for dramatic changes to our smug self-image. Astronomy has taught us that our planet is not the navel of the universe. We learn from biology that we are not created by God, but evolved alongside millions of other species. This book is about another seismic change in our self-image. Most people today believe that we have the bodies of beasts and the souls of angels. Science tells us otherwise. In the pages ahead, I will take you on a tour of history, philosophy and science to show you that the soul, like geocentrism and creationism, is a figment of our imagination. And I will try to explain to you what gives rise to the illusion. Modern astronomy and the theory of evolution did not precipitate the end of the world. They are unmistakably signs of progress. Okay, so maybe this guy's atheist orientated, Darwinist. Likewise, I will show you that in spite of repeated claims to the contrary, we lose nothing by letting go of our soul's beliefs, and better, that we even have something to gain. What is that, I wonder? It is this empowering conclusion that I want to leave you with as you reach the end of this book. The Ghost in the Machine. In a 1999 Edge debate featuring the biologist Richard Dawkins and the psychologist Steven Pinker, titled Is Science Killing the Soul?, Dawkins pointed out that the word soul has different senses. One is the traditional idea that there is something incorporeal about us, that the body is spiritualized by a mysterious substance. In this view, the soul is the non-physical principle that allows us to tell right from wrong, gives us our ability to reason and have feelings, makes us conscious, and gives us free will. Perhaps most important, the soul is the immortal part of ourselves that can survive the death of our physical body and is capable of happiness or suffering in the afterlife. This is the soul that this book is about. It is the soul that captures the imagination of a majority of our population. Here's what some of the students I interviewed wrote about. Soul to me is the internal self of an individual. It separates from the physical part of the body and makes me what I am. It is whatever I refer to when I am thinking or talking about myself. I do believe that my soul will survive the death of my body. I think soul is eternal and will still be there long after my body has perished. I believe my soul is the non-material being of myself, the part that is distinct from both my mind and my external body. I believe the soul to be unchanging and eternal, because I think the soul is imperishable. So I also believe that I will survive the death of my body. I would define my soul as a spirit inside of me that is currently present in human form. The properties of the soul are that it contains all of our emotions and feelings. I believe that when I die, my soul will live on. There are, of course, other senses of the word soul. One has to do with emotional or intellectual intensity, as in the performance lacks soul. The word soul is also used metaphorically in a variety of expressions, such as soulmate, soul food, soul music, soul searching, or lost soul, to name just a few. However, speaking of a performance that lacks soul, or of the poor souls that perished when the Titanic went down, does not commit you to a particular metaphysical view. Likewise, exclaiming, "Oh my God," upon realizing that the value of your stock portfolio has plummeted, does not make you a religious zealot. If anything, it makes you a materialist, albeit not one of the kind that we will be concerned with here. For these reasons, I will have nothing to say about these other senses of the word soul, apart from pointing out, as Dawkins did in the Edge debate, that they are terms that exist, but that they are not the subject of this book. The doctrine underlying the traditional notion of the soul is the view known in philosophical jargon as substance dualism, sometimes also called Cartesian dualism, after the 17th century French philosopher René Descartes. Descartes famously argued for the existence of two fundamentally different substances, the physical matter of bodies and the spiritual stuff of souls. In Descartes' system, souls and bodies casually interact. Your soul pushes your buttons, so to speak. It makes you do the things that you do. Conversely, what happens to your body is felt or experienced in your soul. Soul of the matter. So how can we decide whether souls exist? Is this even a question about which science has anything to say? To many people, the answer to my second question is a resounding no. After all, science deals with phenomena that can be objectively observed and measured. The soul, by contrast, cannot be observed or measured because it is claimed to be immaterial. Therefore, soul beliefs belong to the realms of religion and metaphysics. This conclusion, however, is mistaken. The soul is a scientific hypothesis about the design and function of human beings, the stuff of biology, psychology, and neuroscience. And dualism makes claims about the detachability of mind and body and the existence of a substance capable of causal interactions with ordinary matters, the stuff of physics. Okay, it goes on and on. Okay, so basically, they're denying that you have a soul. Just like other false ideas we entertained in the past had harmful consequences and stifled progress, so too, I will argue, do soul beliefs. Okay, that's what he says. I will argue do soul beliefs. In medieval Europe during the Great Plague, people often had their lips sewn shut and their tongues cut off for fear that they would blaspheme and offend God. This was a perfectly rational practice, if brutally sadistic, based on a deeply flawed theory. Replace God's wrath by the germ theory of disease, and the sadistic practice loses its raison d'etre in less dramatic fashion, and blah blah blah. Okay, it's saying it's all a scientific hypothesis, the soul. Okay, there's no fact, no credible evidence supporting the existence of the soul. Modern science gives us every reason to believe that we do not have souls. Well, that's modern science for you. Yeah, the scientific image of personhood, so feared and vilified in the United States, provides the basis for empowering and practically beneficial alternative to the soul myth. Okay. So they're all denying that there's a soul. I must confess that I have been guilty of the bias described above, and I was unaware of it until a student pointed it out to me when she wrote the following. I came into this discussion excited for this new point of view and eager to learn, but I remember leaving the lecture hall on the verge of crying. I know that dualism isn't the best explanation for the world around us, and it's good to hear both sides. Yeah, two sides of the coin. But the way he explained it felt like daggers were being thrown in my heart and my world was shattering. I wish he would have let us down gently, like saying, Santa may not be here physically, but he'll always be in our hearts, instead of just yanking off the beard on this mall Santa and yelling in front of all the little kids, Santa isn't real. This is beautifully put and painful to read, and I felt sincerely sorry for it, eliciting such feelings. Those remarks also provide an important reality check. Since then I have become much more sensitive to the issue of tone, and I've made a conscious effort to bear this in mind whenever I discuss the issue of the soul publicly or write about it. Tone, therefore, is something I will be sensitive to in this book. In doing so, I am reminded of Spinoza's motto, a dictum named after the 17th century Dutch philosopher Baruch Spinoza, and expressed in these words: I have made a ceaseless effort not to ridicule, not to bewail, not to scorn human actions, but to understand them. In this regard, I also wish to make it clear that at the outset of our investigation, that this book is not intended as another broad brush critique of religion, any more than condemnation and drunk driving should be construed as a general diatribe against the upper use of motor vehicles. I am interested in the soul not because it is a religious concept, and I have a bone to pick with religion, but because it represents a fundamental aspect of human psychology. Okay, so who is writing this? Is this Milano guy or somebody else? Okay, because if it's him saying it, he's contradicting himself by putting here, you don't have a soul, the real science that debunks superstitious charlatans. Hint, hint, right? Religious hucksters with claims of immortal souls who are lying. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's excerpted from his book, The Soul Fallacy: What Science Shows We Gain from Letting Go to Our Soul. So that's basically what he's trying to get at. Okay. So that would be two-faced, right? To reclaim the hijack theory. It's probably in this book here, in the book somewhere. To reclaim the hijack territory, the Christians must take a fresh look at reason and science. Yeah, fair enough. When they do, they will see that it stunningly confirms the beliefs that they held in the first place. It stunningly confirms the beliefs that they held in the first place. What was presumed on the basis of faith is now corroborated on the basis of evidence. Okay. Well, faith doesn't just have a single meaning. It's not like explicitly for one group of people. If you define the word faith, okay, it has dual meanings. Okay, Christian-wise, religious-wise, it's trust, hope. You put your trust and your hope in the deity, God, Jesus, okay, and what's written in the Bible as truth, okay, because it supposedly was spoken by God through the Holy Spirit, who inspired me, to write it down. Okay, then Christ came and God incarnated in the flesh. It basically said similar things. Okay, so that's what faith is. Plus, you have the disciples who were right next to the guy, right, when he was doing all these things and saying all these things, and they wrote it down. Okay, and they say, we're witnesses. God forbid that we're lying, because our faith, etc., then would be worthless, wouldn't it? So you're putting your trust and your hope and or basically your faith in these testimonies. They can't be, their testimonies aren't valid until they pass out, like they're martyred or whatever. Okay. Hence the name, hence the word in the ancient Aramaic, original Galilean Aramaic New Testament, translated into English, they're called testators. Okay, someone who leaves a last will and testament, but it's not valid until they die. Okay? Until however they die, be they martyred or what. Okay. So what was presumed on the basis of faith? Okay, and then you have the other meaning, which is oh my gosh, slipped my mind in a minute. Yeah, trust and hope, basically. Okay, we'll have a look at it. So we get all messed up here. Faith defined. Faith defined. Allegiance to duty or a person, loyalty, etc. Confidence or trust in a person or thing. Faith in another's ability. One, a belief in God or in a set of religious doctrines, i.e. the Bible. A set of religious doctrines, a body of dogma adhered to in the Muslim faith, etc. Okay, so you're putting your hope and your trust into that. Okay, here it is in the Bible in English. The Bible contains a clear definition of faith in Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Yeah? Simply put, the biblical definition of faith is trusting in something you cannot explicitly prove. Okay? Because as scriptures, it's a blessed are those who have not seen or heard, but they believe, right? Okay? It's part of that belief system. Where is it coming from? Originating from? Faith, derived from Latin fides and Old French feld, is confidence or trust in a person, thing or concept in the context of religion. One can define faith as belief in a God or in the doctrines or teachings of religion. Religious people often think of faith as confidence based on a perceived degree of warrant, while others who are more skeptical of religion tend to think of faith as simply fantasy, fairy tale, I guess. Yeah, have a look if it shows us. Faith is the living, bold trust in God's grace. That's Luther. Here we go. Okay, so faith derived from Latin fides and Old French fide is confidence or trust in a person, thing, or concept. In the context of religion, one can define faith as belief in a God or in the doctrines or teachings of religion. Religious people often think of faith as confidence based on a perceived degree of warrant. While others who are more skeptical of religion or anti-God or anti-religion tend to think of faith as simply belief without evidence. That's always the argument, always the answer. Okay. What was presumed on the basis of faith is now corroborated on the basis of evidence. Okay. And this is especially true of the issue of life after death. Remarkably, it is reason and science that supply new and persuasive evidence for the afterlife, evidence that wasn't there before. Okay, yeah, science helps in a way. Okay, if the two match, yeah, the two agree, 2 or 3, and establish the facts as facts, yeah, fair enough. But when one side is arguing that we know, only we have the answer, you're right, you're wrong, we're right, you know, you're following a silly fairy tale, etc., etc. Here's the reality, right? We believe, we think, yeah, we assume, yeah, stuff like that. Okay, so yeah, it's better to know than just believe, right? Fair enough with the evidence rant, you know. It's like the ancient Aramaic Brita or Genesis in English, revealing that the first man created was Neanderthals, both male and female. They were just made in the image of God, etc., etc. And then there's the second Adam made from the dust, from the earth. Okay, and then a woman was created from him, come out of him, created, female. She became his wife. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it agrees with archaeology and the scientific discoveries of the Neanderthal man. Yeah. So there can be some agreement there. Yeah, it's like, yeah, both in an agreement, then that's really good. But if one just wants to, be the dominant and say, oh, as I said, we are the one. We know, you don't. We assume. You're wrong, we're right. They've either got a hidden agenda or a motive. They've got a motive or a hidden agenda, and they're just basically propaganda, aren't they? Okay, so yeah, that's a pretty interesting article, I reckon. If you like that, then subscribe to our channel. Give us a like. Give us a thumbs up. Add your comments down below. And tell all your friends, family, hey, look at this. They claim we got no soul. Are they right or wrong?